Fellas, has your partner ever looked at you and said, "Oh, honey, don't worry about it. Size doesn't matter"? They're lying to you. Because in certain cases, yes, size absolutely does matter. And the same thing can be true in fantasy football. That's why today we are going to take a look at which wide receivers in the NFL are the best when it comes to big plays.
Yeah. Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners. And in today's video, it is going to be all about big play wide receivers. Now, over the last couple of weeks, the one thing that I have heard in the comments is how much you enjoyed my wide receiver, running back, tight end efficiency versus volume videos, and really taking all the statistics, breaking them down, and averaging them out at the end. So I decided to do the same thing today, but looking at big play statistics for the top wide receivers in the league. And we're going to be jumping into all that in just a second. But how are you going to get the 2022 fantasy football draft guide for free from the Fantasy Headliners? Well, you're going to get one for free potentially in this video, but everyone could go get one for free right now if they chose to. All you got to do is head over to prizepicks.com or download the PrizePicks app, make a new account using code word headliners, and then you need to deposit $20. They're going to match that $20 deposit, and then we will give you a 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide for free when it drops in July. It's coming close, ladies and gentlemen. If you already have a PrizePicks account, don't worry about it. You can pre-order yours right now at thefantasyheadliners.com. Link is down below, so you get it right away on drop day. And hey, we're going to be giving one away for free in this video, and I'm going to be letting you know a little bit later on how you could potentially get to that. So, ladies and gentlemen, what is it about the big play wide receivers in the NFL, and what makes them so useful? Which ones are better than others? I mean, you've got players that are consistently winning down the field, like a guy like Mike Evans in recent years, who has always been a guy who has won down the field. Or you got guys like Deshaun Jackson, who, yes, win down the field, but a little bit less often, all right? So when we take all these statistics and we put them all together, who is the most dependable big play threat in the NFL? First, let's take a look at what statistics we are going to be breaking down today. Now, just to let you all know, when we talk about deep play stats, all right, these are stats that are compiled on balls and targets that are more than 25 yards down the field, all right? So this is not overall volume. These are not overall statistics. These statistics are gathered on targets that were more than 25 yards down the field. That is what we consider a big play to be. So for big play statistics, we took a look at targets, receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns, all right? Some good volume stats there for you. Well, I decided to also toss in a little bit of efficiency for you too. Yards per route run, average depth of target, yards after catch per reception, and then I also tossed in some contested catch information because we're actually going to be doing a video on that here very soon. So I decided to throw a little bit in today for that. So, first statistic up, first category, targets. Jamar Chase led the league last year in targets of 25 or more yards down the field with 40. Justin Jefferson, surprisingly enough, was right behind him along with Tyler Lockett at 39. Devontae Smith also coming in with 34 targets right behind those guys. A couple of names there that maybe surprised you outside of Chase and Lockett. Then we got McLaurin, Diggs, Marquise Brown, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf. Deontay Johnson's name surprised me because we all know that Deontay Johnson the last couple of years has been that guy who wins on those shorter routes, right? Chase Claypool has really been the big play threat there the last couple of years, but last season, Deontay Johnson actually had more targets of 25 or more yards down the field than what Chase Claypool had. We'll see if that continues this coming year. Then, of course, guys like Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams coming in with only 26, and that kind of has to do with a little bit of change in philosophy at the beginning of the year. Talked about it a lot last season, that the way they utilized Mike Evans in that offense last year was great at the start of the season, but then they got away from it towards the end of the year, and I think that's what really made his performances so up and down. We'll have to see if they get back to that same thing last year where they really utilized the entire route tree the way they did at the beginning of the year, or they spin it around, and now we take a look at it, and he's just that big play guy down the field again. Christian Kirk, surprisingly enough, on the list here with 25, and then CeeDee Lamb. So everybody on this list had 25 or more targets of 25 or more yards down the field last year. And that's kind of where I cut it off. Could have done some more guys and went to like 20 or something like that. But then we were going to get to like 25 or so names, and it was going to be hard to fit everybody on the screen. So I decided to take everybody that had 25 or more targets of 25 yards down the field last year. All right. So who caught the most of those targets last year? Tyler Lockett did. Tyler Lockett hauled in 20, followed by Cooper Kupp, and then Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase had the most targets at 40. He only caught 17 of those. Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Devontae Smith, Diggs. Kirk, who had some of the fewest targets last year, at only 22, caught 12 of them. So a little bit of a difference there, a little bit less of the volume, but he was a little bit more efficient with those catches. Terry McLaurin, Tyreek Hill, Mike Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson. Marquise Brown being at only 5 kind of caught me off guard a little bit because he had a good year last year. He had more than 1,000 receiving yards. But if you would have told me he only had 5 catches that went for 25 or more yards, I probably would have said no way and went and looked at the numbers myself. But here we are. Only 5 catches of 25 or more yards. And I mean, he was the big play guy in that offense. That's what he was utilized as. So surprised to see him only coming in with 5 there for receptions. Moving on to the next one, receiving yards. Who had the most receiving yards on targets that went 25 or more yards down the field? Well, a name that is going to continue to pop up quite a bit and has always popped up quite a bit over the course of his career. Tyler Lockett may be one of the best deep play threats in the NFL today. And now I know we all can get, if you own Tyler Lockett, you probably, you have some heart palpitations throughout the season, right? That kind of gets to you when you look at that stat line and you're like, holy cow, it's the third quarter and Tyler Lockett only has 12 receiving yards on 2 catches. And then all of a sudden, boom! Huge play, right? Talked about it last year with like riskiest wide receivers. Last year with riskiest wide receivers, Tyler Lockett was one of those guys because his big games were huge and his small games were super small, all right? Well, with Tyler Lockett, he still continues to be a guy that on those big plays racks up the yards. 740 receiving yards last year. Almost 100 more yards on deep play balls than what Jamar Chase had, coming in at 650. And obviously Cooper Kupp there coming in with 700. Cooper Kupp doing the most with what he had, and we'll see that here with efficiency here in a second. Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Mike Williams, Mike Evans, Christian Kirk, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith, Courtland Sutton, DK Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, and again, Marquise Brown only had 5 receptions of 7 or more yards, so not surprising to see him so low here with 210 receiving yards on targets 25 or more yards down the field. Justin Jefferson is an interesting one because obviously you've got Adam Thielen that has been good, a little bit of an injury bug the last couple of years, staying on the field, staying healthy, and then you've got Dalvin Cook you got to pay attention to out of the backfield. But getting Irv Smith Jr. back and healthy this year could just be an even better opportunity for Justin Jefferson to see his game go to the next level. Kirk Cousins is basically vanilla ice cream, right? Like, it gets the job done. It gets the job done. But then when you look at this offense as a whole, that is when you take a look at it and you're like, okay, this becomes a really delicious sundae. Like, vanilla ice cream on its own, yeah, I mean, I'll eat it. Get me a little cone from McDonald's when the machine's actually working, sure. But it's when you throw in some Reese's Pieces or some Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, if you like those things, some whipped cream, cherry on top, all right? Do you like chocolate sprinkles? Do you like the rainbow sprinkles? All right, what type of candy do you love? And that's when this Vikings offense as a whole becomes so much better, because Kirk Cousins is that vanilla ice cream, but all those dynamic playmakers around him, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith Jr., that's when it becomes a delicious sundae. Those guys are the toppings, all right? They make the sundae even better, okay? And that is why that's what that offense is to me. But Justin Jefferson obviously has performed well his first couple of years in the league here. You've got Adam Thielen, who's been good, but Irv Smith Jr. could be ready to help take this offense to a whole new level, because they've had guys like Tyler Conklin and Kyle Rudolph who have been okay, but neither of them are dynamic playmakers the way that Irv Smith Jr. is. Irv Smith Jr. is a true receiving threat. That's what he does best. And if he's healthy this year, he's really going to help take the pressure off of Justin Jefferson, because you're going to have so many guys that can do things underneath. Smith Jr., Thielen, and you've got Dalvin Cook. But then you're going to have Justin Jefferson on the outside, who those safeties, they aren't always going to be able to stay over the top and help Jefferson, because they're going to have to come in and help on some of these guys on these shorter routes, and that's going to give him some more one-on-one coverage. So it'll be interesting with Justin Jefferson to see how his big playability potentially gets even better in 2022. What about the receiving TDs? Jamar Chase, really no surprise there, right? Jamar Chase with 8. Not surprised to see him lead the way. Mike Evans with 6, Lockett with 5, and then we had a lot of ties here. Jefferson, Williams, Deontay Johnson all had 4, and then Brown, Kupp, Kirk, Hill, McLaurin, Smith, Metcalf had 3, Adams and Lamb with 2, Cortland Sutton with 1, Stephon Diggs, no touchdowns last year of 20 or more yards. Now, this next statistic for me is always an interesting one. I kind of like taking a look at this one. And again, with every stat that we use here on the show, you use it to build an entire picture. You don't use one stat to just paint the picture, because you don't typically just paint a picture with one color, right? You use a lot of different colors. So this is our palette of colors here, and yards per route run is just one of those colors that we're going to use to paint a picture by the end of the show. So for yards per route run, basically it's how many yards does a player pick up for every route that they run. How many yards do they account for every route that they run? And again, these were all on targets that are 25 or more yards down the field, all right? So this really shows us who made the most out of all of their targets, right? Because even though these targets are 25 or more yards down the field, number one, they don't potentially catch all of them. So even if it's a route run where it's a target down the field, they didn't catch it. And again, it could be where they ran a route and there was a target 25 or more yards down the field, but wasn't necessarily them. So for every route that they run that was 25 or more yards down the field, if there was a target down the field, how many people took the most of those targets and turned them into actual yards? Cooper Kupp led the way, 25.93. Not difficult to see that one there. Tyler Lockett coming in at number 2. Again, staying at the top of all of these statistics here. Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, Jamar Chase, Christian Kirk. These are all decent ones to see up here, right? Now, the one thing about these two is that you would expect to see, hey, well, the more volume that they have, the less you'll see them. That's not really the case, because like Mike Williams is up here, Christian Kirk, Mike Evans, Stephon Diggs, Hill, Jefferson, and then at the bottom here, you've got Sutton, McLaurin, Metcalf, Deontay Johnson, Devontae Smith, Marquise Brown. So even like all of these guys, that's not really a case where you say, oh, well, of course, more volume equals this. No, because they're really kind of spread out, very even along the lines of all of these. What about average depth of target? So on targets that were 25 or more yards down the field, what was the average depth of that target? No surprise here, Tyreek Hill led the way with 34.7 yards per target. Marquise Brown at 34. So Marquise Brown actually had the second highest average depth of target out of all of these wide receivers listed, but he was continuously at the bottom of every single one of these statistics. Is that Lamar Jackson's fault? I wouldn't say it 100% is, because, well, Lamar Jackson was hurt at times last season, and this doesn't take those out. Is it Marquise Brown's fault for just not hauling enough in? Well, not necessarily, because he's not a guy that is a wide receiver one. He's not built to win against double coverages and things of that nature. So, if he's got some targets to him that maybe double coverage he just can't quite come down with, that's going to be an issue. But they did try to feed the ball down the field to him consistently. Now, not really having that much of a running game last year probably also hurt that efficiency a little bit. Cortland Sutton at 32, then Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf, Diggs, Mike Williams, Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans, Devontae Smith, Cooper Kupp. Now, this doesn't surprise me that you take a look at all of these statistics here and you say, man, this is what happened with like each of these players. This is how well they did. Cooper Kupp has always been a guy that is kind of towards the top in some of these categories. And all of a sudden you get to average depth of target and he comes in at 29.3. So it's very easy to look at this and say that Cooper Kupp probably did the most with the least, which isn't surprising because he's a freaking beast, right? None of these stats should surprise us about Cooper Kupp at this point, but he did the most with the least. Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson, and CeeDee Lamb. Now, interesting enough, when we go to yards after the catch per reception, DK Metcalf was at 10.4. Cooper Kupp was right behind him at 9.2. But you probably might be thinking to yourself, but Kyle, you just said that Cooper Kupp did more with less. But DK Metcalf obviously did more on yards after the catch per reception. But look at the difference. DK Metcalf had 10.4. Cooper Kupp had 9.2. DK Metcalf's average depth of target was 31. Cooper Kupp's was 29. So he was a little bit behind DK Metcalf and still was right. So that right there is why I said that he did more with less, because he was able to take some of those shorter routes and turn them into bigger gains. But yards after the catch per reception, Metcalf and Cooper Kupp, Jamar Chase, Marquise Brown. So again, Marquise Brown, kind of all over the place, right? All over the place. Not a great average, not great across the board here in terms of being a big play threat. But there are some statistics that point out that say, man, he could potentially just thrive in Arizona. Thrive. Now, is it going to be to begin the season? I don't know about that, because again, he's going to have to be basically the number one. But once DeAndre Hopkins gets back, that could really help out a lot. Deontay Johnson, Tyler Lockett, Mike Williams. Tyler Lockett, love seeing him up here at 6.8 and not down in these 2s and 3s and things like that, because that means Tyler Lockett, when he's getting these catches, he's still in the midst of really breaking out big plays. Some of these other guys you take a look at and you're probably like, they catch it and they're probably basically down at that point. With Tyler Lockett, even though he's not, that big of a guy, he still is making a lot of things happen after he catches the football. Love to see that. What about contested catches? So again, contested catches is basically, it's when you have less than 3 yards of separation between you and the closest defender when you make a catch. And who led the way last year? Terry McLaurin. I bet most of you are probably looking at this saying, what? McLaurin, and then Christian Kirk was 7 and 6 last year, led the league in contested catches after after targets of 25 or more yards down the field. Now, obviously, contested catches, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, and that could be anywhere on the field. But these guys down the field, winning against their defender, a couple of the best ones in the league. And it'll be interesting to see how well Christian Kirk helps out Trevor Lawrence in his development, knowing that he has the ability to win against defenders down the field. And then Kupp, Chase, Williams, Lamb, Jefferson, Evans, all tied with 5. Diggs, Sutton, Smith with 4. Lockett with 3. Metcalf and Adams with 2. Deontay Johnson, Tyreek Hill with 1. Marquise Brown, nada. He wasn't winning down the field. He was not winning down the field. Now, what's this all average out to, right? So if we take all these categories and where they placed and we average out their final positions, where did all these players finish, and who was the best deep play threat in all of football last year, taking into account several categories? Well, it was Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase had by far the best season of any of the wide receivers down the field last year. Not surprised, was turning out big plays consistently. Tyler Lockett coming in right after him, and we'll have to see how that works this year with Drew Lock behind the helm, or potentially Geno Smith if he wins the job. It's interesting because either he's probably going to be just as good as he has been, or he's going to be way, way worse. I don't think there's going to be any middle ground, ladies and gentlemen. He's either going to continue to make big plays, or he's going to be a guy that is just going to be kind of off the big play radar map by the end of the year. I really don't think that there is an in-between with these quarterbacks that they have. Cooper Kupp was 3rd, followed by Justin Jefferson. Mike Williams at 5, seeing him coming in at an average of 7.75. Again, he's a talented wide receiver. Kind of has never really been utilized correctly. Would love to see them get back to utilizing him a little bit more like they did at the beginning of last season, allowing him to run so many different routes on the tree. Mike Evans at 8, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Adams, Christian Kirk. Interesting to see Tyreek Hill's name pop up so far down the map because we know he's a big play wide receiver. But you also have to remember, too, that Tyreek Hill takes a lot of shorter plays and turns them into bigger plays. So when you take a look at just his targets that are 25 or more yards down the field, it's not taking account into everything that he's done. So is he like a big play guy down the field? No, not really. He will win down the field, absolutely. But it goes to show you just how Tyreek Hill has been utilized in that offense for so long, being that guy that, hey, we can get you anywhere on the field, and no matter where you're at, you can win, and we want to put you in the best position possible. Hope is Miami kind of does the same thing, and that would be really good for Tua as well. So that's why one reason when people are kind of like, well, I'm off Hill, Tua can't throw the deep ball. He doesn't have to, because this right here paints the picture of what it is for Tyreek Hill that he has done that has made him so good, and why he can do the same thing in Miami, and Tua shouldn't be a concern of yours. It should not. So if you want to win a free draft guide, or if you want to have the potential to win a free guide from the Fantasy Headliners this year, you're going to have to hit the like button, because we need to get 650 likes on this video. And then in the comments below, I need you to do hashtag balls deep, all right? Do hashtag balls deep, and then next to it, what wide receiver, if you had to pick one of the wide receivers listed here to be your, let's say, wide receiver 1, who would it be? And more than likely, no. Let's not say that. Hashtag balls deep. And then you need to list the 3 wide receivers. All right. If you could pick a wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, what would be the 3 wide receivers that you would want to have on your team? Try to be a little realistic with it. Probably if you get Jamar Chase, you're not going to get Tyreek Hill. They're going to be going a little bit too close to get each other. You're probably not going to get Chase and Jefferson. So try to be a little bit more realistic with it. If you were to draft like Cooper Kupp first, would you take like a Terry McLaurin a little bit later on? And then would you take like Devontae Smith later? That's kind of what I want you to do with this. So if you want to have an opportunity to win a free draft guide from the Fantasy Headliners, hashtag balls deep down in the comment. Who would you take as your top 3 wide receivers for your fantasy team out of these 17 guys listed? And then you need to hit that like button, because I can't give the guide away until we hit 650 likes. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just a really good breakdown for you on the best big play threats at the wide receiver position in the NFL. What does that mean for you, your fantasy team, and all of that thing? So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video again. Hopefully you're enjoying kind of this just series of videos where we're spending this offseason really diving deep into all of the statistics that you need to be keeping an eye on to really make really informed fantasy football decisions when your draft comes around. Now, before you get out of here, got to hit the like button, and of course, leave your comment down below to have an opportunity to win a free draft guide. But if new here, you got to hit the subscribe button. Stick around for all the great off-season content. We're getting closer and closer and closer to fantasy football season, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you are prepared to dominate your league this year. But I'm going to get out of here. All of you stay safe and healthy. Peace out, and I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. Y'all stuck on 3rd down. Your content's plain Jane. Headliners on top now. We gonna move and change. Podcast off the rip. Draft guide, so legit. Fantasy world, our game tight. We about that chubb life. Stuck in a rut, and you need some motivation. Head to the channel for this Headliner Nation. I'm a headliner.